Today our topic is ecological niche. We will start with habitat first. Habitat is physical place of an organism. It is physical place where an organism lives. Physical place. Or we can say this habitat is address of an organism, where an organism is found. For example, some faunal species, some animal species, they are found in forest, some are found in grasslands, some are found in deserts. So these forests, grasslands, deserts, they are their habitat. This habitat, it provides all the needs which are required for the survival of an organism. For example, it will provide food, it will provide shelter, it will provide mate, etc. So it will provide everything which is essential for the survival of an organism. And this habitat, it is address of an organism where there are chances of maximum chances of finding or locating an organism. Now, ecological niche. Ecological niche, it is an inclusive term. It includes three different things. It tells us about the place where an organism lives. It also tells us about the function which is being performed by an organism. So it also tells us about the function. It also tells us about the environmental factors or environmental gradients within which a species can be found. Environmental factors. These environmental factors, they can be biotic as well as abiotic factors. So there are three aspects when we talk of ecological niche. This tells us about place where an organism lives. This tells us about function which is being performed by an organism in an ecosystem. It also tells us about the environmental gradients or environmental factors within which a species can be found. These environmental factors, they can be biotic as well as abiotic. So all these three, they constitute the ecological niche. So here we can see there are three aspects of ecological niche. So ecological niche has been divided into three types. The first tells us place where an organism lives. This is habitat niche. Habitat niche. Habitat niche will tell us about the physical place where an organism lives. For example, different species, for example, different animals, they are living in different areas. Those areas where they are living, they would be their habitats. One important example of this habitat niche was given by O'Neill. O'Neill, he found 7 species of millipedes. All these 7 species, they were found on the ground floor of the forest. Within the ground floor, these species, they were found on different layers of the ground floor. All these species, they were performing same function. They were decomposers. These millipedes, they were decomposers, but they were living in the same habitat. Their habitat was same, or physical place where they were living, it was same. Second is trophic niche. Trophic niche, it tells us about the function which is being performed by an organism. For example, Some species they are producers, some are consumers, some are decomposers. So these are different functions which are being performed by these species. One important example of this trophic niche, when Charles Darwin he was on to voyage on different these islands. In one of the islands he found different species of birds which are popularly called Darwinian finches. These birds they were they were living in the same general habitat. But these birds they were performing different functions, means their trophic niche was different. Some of these birds they were herbivores. Some of these birds they were carnivores. These carnivorous birds they were picking up or they were eating the insects. Even within these carnivores, some of the birds they were eating up large insects, some were eating up small insects. It means these birds they had gone for resource partitioning. We will study it in this lecture. Now, environmental gradients. There are different environmental factors which are influencing the distribution of the factors. So we call this niche as n-dimensional niche or hypervolume niche or fundamental niche. Hypervolume niche. It is also called an n-dimensional niche. This hypervolume niche it tells us about the different environmental factors, both biotic as well as abiotic factors, which influence the distribution of the species. If sometimes these factors these factors are favorable for the species, so normally the species would occupy the large ecological niche, or we can say the species would occupy a large geographical area. But there are present this large area which would be occupied by the species in absence of the predators is called a fundamental niche. Fundamental niche. So fundamental niche is large ecological area which would be occupied by the species in absence of predators. But in nature there are present some predators which hinder or restrict the distribution of the species. So what happens in presence of predators, the species they occupy smaller area than the fundamental niche would suggest. Such niche is called a realized niche. So if this all is fundamental niche, but in actuality the species would occupy smaller area, this smaller area would be called a realized niche. Realized niche. This area is fundamental niche. The niche. So if there are no predators present, the species would be found in this whole area. But in presence of these predators, the species would be found in this small area only. Sometimes what happens, the species they are having same fundamental niche. Whenever two species are having same fundamental niche, they start competing with each other. When these species compete, there happens two things: either one species eliminates the other species, or they undergo resource partitioning. Elimination occurs, either resource partitioning. What happens in this elimination, when two species having same fundamental niche, one species it eliminates the other species. This was first observed by Gauss. It is called Gauss's law or Gauss's law of competitive exclusion. He cultured two species of paramecium in the same medium. On one side one species, on the other side he cultured other species of paramecium. Over course of time he found that only one species was present there. The other species was eliminated by the one species. The other species got eliminated from the area. And second is resource partitioning. This is also a way to reduce the competition. In resource partition, what the species do, they go for sharing of the resources. For example, what happens if sometimes these lions, big predators and leopards, they are present in the same area. If lions and leopards are present in the same area, the lions would usually, they will eat large, they will take large prey, whereas these leopards, they will take small prey. Sometimes in resource partitioning, they go for hunting during different periods, during different time. For example, when hawks and owls, they are in the same area, their resources are same. These hawks, they go for hunting during the day, and these owls, they go for hunting during the night. In this way they are able to live together, they are able to reduce the competition. One more important thing, sometimes what happens, sometimes there are species, they are present in different areas, different geographical areas, but they are occupying same ecological niche. Such species which are present in different areas but are occupying same or similar ecological niche, such species are called ecological equivalents. Such species are called ecological equivalents. For example, there are grasslands present. Grasslands are present in semi-arid areas, tropical areas, as well as temperate areas. All these grasslands, they are having different species of grasses. All these different species of grasses, they would constitute ecological equivalents, or the herbivores which are present in these different grasslands, they would also be ecological equivalents, because their ecological niches are same, but they are present in different geographical areas. Sometimes what happens, some species they are able to occupy large ecological niches. Large ecological niches, it means they are able to, they occupy, when we say they occupy large ecological niches, we say three things. They are present in different climatic conditions. They are occupying large geographical areas. They are eating different things, variety of foods they are eating. And the third important thing, they are present in different geographical conditions. So their habitat niche, their trophic niche, their hypervolume niche is broad. Such species are called generalists. Opposite of this is specialists. Specialists have got small habitat niche, their physical place where they live, it is small. Small trophic niche, they eat very few food, the variety of foods. Hypervolume niche, they live within small these environmental factors, means they are not able to live in different changing climatic conditions or changing environmental factors. So their their habitat niche, trophic niche, hypervolume niche is small. Such species are called specialists. These specialists are always under threat of extinction, because they are found in small geographic area and they are not able to adjust in changing climatic conditions. So generalists as well as specialists. For examples of these generalists, for example, human beings, we are generalist species. We occupy large these geographical areas. We are able to survive in different climatic conditions, and we also eat different variety of foods. Whereas it is totally opposite for specialists. One important example of specialists is red panda. I think this is sufficient for today. Thank you.